Ladies and gentlemen, I am absolutely ready to unload on these bowl games with more predictions. Here's all the New Year's Six bowls. This is part 2 of my video. If you guys haven't watched part 1, that was just recently uploaded earlier. But guys, we are here midway through here, December 29th, the 2 o'clock afternoon game. This is the Pinstripe Bowl. Game will be taking place at Yankee Stadium. It is Minnesota and Syracuse. And in Minnesota right now, the 6.5-point favorites. And guys, I've said multiple times that I do think that, the way Syracuse has ended their season, not buying them at all. Minnesota is a very solid team. The one argument you can make, Minnesota really can't pass the ball, but I just think due to their running game, due to their defense, due to me trusting PJ Fleck, Minnesota easily wins this game, covers the spread. It's going to be a lower scoring, cold game that really plays into Minnesota's hands. Remember, Syracuse, the rare dome team of college football, they're going to be playing in cold weather against a good Minnesota defense. I'll take Minnesota to win this game. They are 6.5-point favorites, but I also have them covering in the Pinstripe Bowl. Moving to the Cheez-It Bowl, we have Oklahoma taking on FSU. Kind of a weird, FSU 9-3 team versus 6-6 Oklahoma. I will say Oklahoma does have significant upside because they do have a lot of talent. Their overall team talent is better than their record. But guys, let's be real. This is a very tough spot for Oklahoma. FSU has been one of the possible top 10 teams in college football over the last 5 or 6 weeks of the season. All they do is win. And up until that last game against Florida, all they do is cover. They've been covering a ton of these games. 7.5 is really not an attractive number. I do love the over in this game because Oklahoma has been playing very well on offense, and their defense, while it's getting better under Brett Venables, when you're facing a team like FSU, Travis, the quarterback, they are impressive. I think FSU wins this game. They're not going to throw away a really good season. They're going to finish 10-3. And they're going to be ranked very high in the final AP poll, in my opinion. Next, we have the Alamo Bowl. It's going to be Texas taking on Washington. Right now, Texas 3.5-point favorites. There is an issue with this game, guys, and it's Bijan Robinson. Possible top 10, top 15 pick in the NFL draft. Extremely dynamic. A lot of people think he's the best running back in college football. You would think he'd probably sit this game out considering it is basically meaningless. But guys, there's something, in my opinion, that says Texas wins this game. I don't know what it is. It's just a vibe I get. I don't think Texas goes to 5 losses. It seems like Washington, they're a little bit worse than their record. So this is kind of just a correction game for me. I know it doesn't make a ton of sense because Bijan Robinson probably isn't playing, but it is important to note that Washington does have a very unimpressive pass defense. So Quinn Ewers in a dome in the Alamo Bowl late at night, I think this is a good spot for him possibly to break out in this game and really set up some offseason hype, which we know Texas is the king of this offseason. So guys, it's just a vibe I get. I don't love the spread with Texas being 3.5-point favorites and possibly without Bijan Robinson. Washington, phenomenal passing team, certainly, but I just feel there's a correction game. I don't think Texas gets 5 losses. I originally did have Washington winning this game, but I went through a rebirth last night, and it was like, wow, no, I see it now. I see Texas winning this game. There's no way they get 5 losses. There's Washington a little bit worse than their record. They're going to finish the season 10-3. In my opinion. Even though they are returning the quarterback, they've got so much hype going into next year. That is just my prediction on that. Moving to the 30th, so the day before. This is New Year's Eve. It's the Duke's Mayo Bowl, and it is Maryland taking on NC State. Maryland 2.5-point favorites. Maryland, to me, is a very polarizing team, guys. We really don't know what version of them we're going to get, and I just feel like NC State is better on defense overall. They win a closer game. I would have thought NC State would be favorites in this one. I know Maryland has more offensive explosiveness, but due to the defense being better, due to NC State being more consistent, even with the quarterback situation, it feels like NC State, without Devin Leary, they were able to win some big games. And you would think against Maryland in a neutral site one, it is not an extreme tough task. I'm taking NC State because I'm trusting their defense, and they were able to stabilize after the injury. Maryland, on the other hand, you could make an argument they finished the season extremely strong. That performance against Ohio State was really good. The offense was really good. And then they did annihilate, I think, Rutgers, where they were 14-point favorites, and they shut out Rutgers. So they are coming to a very nice close. They've got momentum. But I'll take NC State. This is me picking NC State's defense to get it done against Maryland, and they win a close one. That is a noon game. Moving to the 2 o'clock game, it's going to be the Sun Bowl. And you got to love the logos, both the cursive logos here. Pittsburgh taking on UCLA. UCLA right now 3.5-point favorites. And guys, to me, this is an offensive mismatch. You've got Pittsburgh's quarterback entering the transfer portal. So I will take UCLA very easily in this one with DTR, Zach Charbonnet. Although, will Zach Charbonnet possibly sit out with his draft? He's probably going to go to the draft. I don't know. That would suck. But this is a situation, guys, I always say it, especially against a team like Pittsburgh, where UCLA is at least on equal footing in terms of talent. They probably have more talent on offense, at least, with DTR. This is trust Chip Kelly. Trust Chip Kelly to drop a 40-burger on Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, they're, coming into this game, they've got the running back who put up great numbers. He had the crazy 6-touchdown game. But overall, UCLA gets the job done, and I do think this spread is going to be adjusted because there are some issues going on right now with Pittsburgh and the transfer portal. Moving on to the Gator Bowl, it is South Carolina taking on Notre Dame, and what a tough game to predict here. South Carolina, kind of a weird year. They started the season with a lot of hype, didn't do anything mid-season, and then finished with an absolute bang, crushing Tennessee, beating Clemson. That's a good Clemson team they beat on the road, even though it was with DJ Uiagalelei. Notre Dame listed as a favorite. I've loved them this entire season. They are so fundamentally sound, and I do think it's going to be a very competitive game, but I have to take Notre Dame here. They are simply the better team. Yes, South Carolina, they've been playing great lately, but Notre Dame, that defense, to me, it's too much. They get a turnover against Spencer Rattler, and they get the win. My one big concern for Notre Dame in this game, their inability to generate big plays on offense. They lack playmakers in comparison to South Carolina's offense, so that might be a problem, but I do think one big turnover for Notre Dame allows them to capture the win, and Marcus Freeman understands how big this game is for Notre Dame. You want to go into the recruiting offseason, the transfer portal season, with a win and really have some legit momentum for your team. They've really done a great job turning things around there, and after a few early losses, getting ranked. Even the loss to USC, they're still probably going to be, a top 20 team as long as they beat South Carolina. Of course, moving to the Arizona Bowl, it's Wyoming and Ohio. Ohio, the slight favorites in this one. And this is a tough situation. Ohio, their starting quarterback went down. He's out for the year. Wyoming, very defensive-minded team. I'm seeing a lower scoring game, and I do like Wyoming. There's been a trend within Wyoming up until the last week of the regular season where no matter if Wyoming was the favorites or the underdog, the team, the Wyoming game, the favorite would never cover. So it's a weird trend, and I'm thinking it continues here. I've got Wyoming winning this game outright. It's not a good matchup for Ohio. We saw Ohio's backup quarterback against Toledo. Toledo does have a pretty good defense for the MAC, but still, in a dome, 7 points. That's just not good enough. I cannot trust Ohio without their starting quarterback. I'm taking Wyoming to get it done in a 4:30 game right on the 30th. Moving on, this is the first New Year's Six Bowl. And guys, let me quickly say, I'm going to have a full breakdown, a super in-depth video on all the New Year's Six games. That'll be a separate video. This is just my flash instant, picks. So how much energy has now been infused into that Clemson program with the 5-star, true freshman starting DJ Uiagalelei into the portal. They're taking on a Tennessee team. This is a beautiful all-orange matchup, and apparently both of these teams will be wearing orange jerseys. Guys, I'm kidding on that, but that would be awesome. If they should just do it, it would be amazing. There would be some issues, who to tackle and stuff, but still, this is a phenomenal, picture-perfect Orange Bowl type matchup. Clemson sitting at 4.5-point favorites. Tennessee without Hendon Hooker, it's going to be tough. This is a higher scoring game. Dabo Swinney and Clemson win this game. They go into the offseason with all the momentum in the world. With the 5-star quarter, oh my goodness, this is such a great setup for Clemson. After crushing North Carolina, winning the ACC, they beat a Tennessee team who had a great year, but they're without their starting quarterback. I know Tennessee fans are going to say they beat Vanderbilt 56-0. Clemson is a completely different animal than Vanderbilt. Joe Milton, for as big as an arm that he has, I think he turns the ball over once or twice. Clemson gets the win. This is a big game for Clemson to kind of put themselves back on the map. After being somewhat lower the past 2 years, this can really catapult them to national exposure going into the offseason and possibly a top 4 ranking in the preseason AP poll if they win it. How about the Music City Bowl? This is a noon game, very low scoring. It's Iowa and Kentucky. Kentucky will Levis play? He's possibly a first-round pick, things like that. Right now, Kentucky 3.5-point favorites. Guys, these are the exact games. I'm telling you this right now. If you play Iowa's style of football, you will lose. You cannot do that. You play Iowa's style of football against Iowa, you're losing. I'm taking Iowa to win this game. Very low scoring. It's a noon game. I love the Music City Bowl logo. It looks like one of those really fancy logos you see for a 5-star hotel. But I like Iowa in this one. Again, Kentucky plays a very similar style that Iowa does. There's no explosive plays on offense. They want a ball control. Iowa, how do they get their points? Who knows? They might get 6 safeties, guys, but Iowa gets it done. They somehow win this game because, of course, and maybe Will Levis doesn't play. Next, we've got the Sugar Bowl. It is Kansas State and Alabama. This is also a noon game. There is no spread currently on this game because there is so much influx on what's going to happen with Alabama. Will Anderson probably not playing. Bryce Young probably not playing. But, guys, I think there's going to be a narrative that Kansas State's possibly going to be able to pull off the upset because we've seen Nick Saban in these Sugar Bowls in years past lose. But I think Nick Saban says, you know what? We're going to win this game even with our backup quarterback. He has experience. He's going to run the ball. They still have more athletes. I am picking Alabama to win this game. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but I just feel like Nick Saban is going to say, I'm tired of losing these Sugar Bowls. Yes, technically it's a meaningless game, but it just feels too good to be true. Kansas State, they're a good team, but they do have a loss to Tulane. They're not going to have even with Alabama playing some of their backups, Alabama's going to have such a significant talent advantage. I think with the extra practice, Bama gets it done. They stay level. They win this game and they end the season on a high note, even without Bryce Young. Kansas State's definitely had a good year. Here we go, guys. It is game number 1 of the playoffs. It is the Fiesta Bowl, 4 o'clock start. Kind of weird, 1 o'clock, Arizona times, or maybe is Arizona the mountain time zone? I don't know, they do something weird. Maybe it's a 2 o'clock start. Either way, it is TCU. It is Michigan. There is money being poured right now onto both TCU and Michigan. It's evenly split. Michigan is 9.5-point favorites. And guys, the vibe I get on this game is very similar to last year's playoff game between Alabama and Cincinnati, to the 2016 playoff game between Alabama and Washington. To me, it feels like TCU has achieved their goal. Their goal was to make the playoffs. Michigan, they've already been here. They're in the playoffs. They're not impressed. They're saying, listen, we're just starting to get to our goal. Our goal is the national championship. It feels like Michigan's season hasn't been made yet. They're still striving for something. TCU is just happy to be there. They celebrated. That's great for their program, but it feels like Michigan is the better team. They're fundamentally sound. They're going to win this game. It's going to be close early. I understand TCU. They come back. We get it. But it just feels like TCU, They've done everything. They're playing with house money. That's it. As opposed to Michigan, they're like, all right, this is a tune-up. It's not a tune-up, but this is a game where it just feels like that playoff vibe, just like the Cincinnati-Alabama game last year, where Alabama's not impressed. They know they're going to win. They come in expecting to win, and they take care of business. That's what it feels like for Michigan, at least for me in this game. Maybe I'm disrespecting TCU. Either way, guys, I just want a great game, but I do think Michigan pulls away late. And guys, next we do have the Peach Bowl, the primetime matchup. It's Ohio State taking on Georgia. The Buckeyes making it after USC loses. We've got Georgia coming in undefeated 13-0 after beating LSU in a surprisingly high-scoring game, 50-30. When it comes to this game, I went to bed last night about 95% sure on my prediction in this game. And guys, I woke up. I am 1,000% sure that I will predict this game correctly. And guys, I've got it at 45-35, Ohio State winning. You take a look at this Georgia team, their pass defense, very suspect. They're going to say a lot of it was in garbage time. I understand it. But guys, if I'm Ryan Day, I'm looking at what Nick Saban did to Georgia last year in the SEC Championship. Georgia's one strength on defense. It's pass rush. It's elite defensive linemen. It's pressure against C.J. Stroud. You need to go fast, tempo, tire out their linemen. Guys, JSN is back. Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka Ibuka, Julian Fleming. This is going to be an artillery barrage of epic proportions in SEC country. It is going to be an unbelievable display by this Ohio State offense. I am expecting 500 passing yards from C.J. Stroud. And I'm being nice, by the way, with this score prediction, because originally I was thinking 52-35. So I've pulled it back down a little bit. It's 45-35. And guys, Ohio State, Mayan Williams is going to be healthy. Maybe Trevion Henderson gets healthy. But either way, the key thing is JSN coming back for the Buckeyes, pairing him, the two best receivers in college football, on the same roster in the same game, lining up next to each other. Marvin Harrison Jr., JSN, against the suspect secondary. Guys, it's so obvious. Ryan Day, his back is against the wall. He's gotten so much hate. He's going to win this game. The talent is similar, and I understand people are going to say it's the Peach Bowl, it's Georgia's second home. You're right, but Ohio State does have a big enough fan base to at least make it a 60-40 split. They can do that. It's not going to be 80-20. It's not going to be 75-25. So while Georgia will have a little bit of an advantage in terms of the crowd, I think Ohio State's fan base can at least weather it to make it 60-40. To where it's more of a neutral site atmosphere. I will say it is an advantage that Georgia has already played multiple games there, so they're more familiar with the building. They're familiar with playing there. But this is a statement game for Ryan Day. This is 2020 Clemson. He knows this is a warpath, and this is part one of hopefully, just the epic offensive display. C.J. Stroud, he's gotten so much hate. This is his chance to... Ohio State's big chance to go into SEC country and just make a statement on the SEC, really. So this could be epic. Georgia is a phenomenal team. I've said it so many times this year, though, guys. Stetson Bennett's 5 minutes are up. Georgia, it's so hard to win back-to-back national championships. I cannot see it. This is equilibrium. This is equalizing college football. This is balancing it for Ohio State to win the championship. They've been so close going back to 2014. They won it then. You'd think they'd get at least one more. They haven't done it yet. They've got to do something, guys. I've got them winning this game over Georgia. Georgia, phenomenal program, unbelievable, 13-0 after the national championship, so much respect. But sometimes when a freight train is coming in, you got to get out of the way or you're going to get run over. Unfortunately for Georgia, they're going to get run over. Ohio State wins that game. Moving on, we've got... Guys, it's so disappointing they renamed these bowls. I was like, this is actually a good bowl. This was the Outback Bowl. I remember looking, I was like, wow, so this is what the Outback Bowl was in Tampa Bay. This game is played at Raymond James Stadium. It seemed like Iowa was always in the Outback Bowl, but now it is Illinois taking on Mississippi State. And I think Illinois has become one of the more underrated teams in college football. If you actually look at their quarterback and their offense, they're not super one-dimensional. They can throw the ball. They've thrown the ball well in the second half of the year. They played an extremely competitive game against Michigan, and then they annihilated Northwestern and easily covered the spread. So this Illinois team is playing better. I like this team. Mississippi State, they are 1.5-point favorites. I don't dispute that. Mississippi State has more offensive talent, but I do think Illinois gets the job done because they have a better defense. And really, if you look at their offense, yes, Chase Brown is a beast, and I love Chase Brown. But you look, they can throw the ball a little bit. I'll take Illinois to win that game outright. I think they're being underrated. Next, we've got the Citrus Bowl. It is Purdue and LSU. Guys, this is very simple. If LSU comes out, well coached, Brian Kelly has his guys ready, I do not think this game will be close. Watching Purdue against Michigan, their quarterback is just so, not mobile inside the pocket. LSU is going to have better athletes. I think this is a game where LSU, it could actually be worse than this. It might be like 42-21 or something. Purdue's had a nice season, but it just feels like LSU is way more talented. They're really not going to have many players sitting out either for this game, so I do think Brian Kelly is going to be very motivated to finish it off with a dominant win and really announce that he's had a good year in the SEC. They made the SEC championship. And you take a look at that game against Georgia. Yeah, I mean, it was bad. They gave up 50 points, but the offensive passing was really impressive. They had 500 yards of passing on offense. So I like LSU to win that game pretty big. I do like them covering the 6.5-point spread. Next, we have the Cotton Bowl, the 1 o'clock game. It's Tulane and USC. So maybe a little bit up in the air. USC only 1-point favorites. Caleb Williams, how is his health? To me, guys, Tulane is going to be about 1,000 times more motivated in this game. And if it's close late, I have a feeling that Tulane is somehow, some way going to pull it out. Again, it just feels like USC really, they're definitely more talented than Tulane. But right now, Lincoln Riley knows he's going to have to hit the portal really hard to get a really good, or at least a few defensive players. They straight up don't have a good defense. Like Tulane, I would not be surprised if Tulane scored 38 points on them. They just don't have a good defense. So I just feel like Tulane more motivated for this game. Caleb Williams dealing with an injury. Are they going to want to risk him? He might be healthy. It's a month long. We'll have to see. There'll be speculation. I might have to update this pick if he's like 100% healthy. But I just feel like they might not want to risk it. And then maybe if he's not 100% during the game, I don't know. I think this is a good spot possibly for Tulane to win in an upset in that one. And then the final bowl game of the year, it is the Rose Bowl. I know everyone loves the Rose Bowl, and I love the Rose Bowl too, but it is kind of like a bittersweet thing where Christmas is over, New Year's is over, and it's like we're pretty much stuck in the doldrums when the Rose Bowl happens because there's like nothing to look forward to, when the Rose Bowl is going on. Like, I think it'd be so cool if they played the Rose Bowl on Christmas Eve. I know, that's against tradition and stuff, but it's like when it's on, there's nothing to look forward to, so it's like it's a negative feel. It's a negative vibe. It's like we're going straight into January, straight into 15-degree weather. It's tough. But, this is a great matchup for the Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl hit it out of the park. Utah, even though they are going back after last year, they're going to have a great crowd. They lost to Ohio State. They're going to be very motivated. And then Penn State, what a season that they've had, just losing to Ohio State and Michigan. I will say Penn State really does not have any impressive wins. And guys, my prediction on this game right now, Utah 1.5-point favorites. I just can't see Utah losing back-to-back Rose Bowls. They're too good of a team for me to see them losing back-to-back. And also Penn State, Joey Porter Jr. going to be sitting out, maybe a few other guys sitting out, maybe even Clark Phillips for Utah sitting out. That'll be interesting to see Utah's team culture. Imagine if he plays in that game, even as a potential first-round pick. That would be a great sign for their team culture. And I just think Utah, the crazy performance against USC, this team is so good. You know, they're really a top 10 team in college football. I know they have 3 losses. I get it. But still, I've said it all year. They are really, really good all around, offense, defense. And then, of course, the other thing, like my thing with Penn State, they just really haven't beaten anyone. So they've definitely handled their business. They've basically covered in 7 straight games or something like that. But it's just they haven't beaten anyone great. I think Utah is a little bit better. Utah a little bit more motivated after losing the Rose Bowl last year. They get the job done in a higher scoring game because we've seen a trend with the Rose Bowl and the games being higher scoring. They win 34-31. So guys, those are my official bowl predictions. There's going to be so much more. So much stuff to talk about. There's going to be players opting out, things like that. I might have to tweak them a little bit. We will see. But these are my initial bowl predictions here for the 2022-2023 bowl season. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that will always be in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.